Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone here live in Miami. We're happy to have you, Lucas, and I think it's Reed back in the studio. I've benched Jackson for the morning because it's a primetime game. We got to have our stuff together, and we got to be at our best. We're here with you until 1 o'clock. Of course, you've got Monday Night Football between the Titans and the Dolphins later this evening right here on 104.5 The Zone. Jump in if you want to at any point. 615-737-1045 is the number. You also have access to the F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Last year at this very stadium, in this very game, on this very primetime broadcast, the Titans did the improbable. They came back down 2 scores in the final 3.5 minutes when everybody, including me, you, and all of you listening at home, had left them for dead, and now they're going to try and do it again when the vast majority of people watching this football team through 3 games in 2024 have also left them for dead. Can they find a pulse? Good morning. What are you doing in my seat, Lucas?
Oh, I appreciate the irony of you, pretending like you were the one who benched Jackson today and then talking about being up to a certain standard. It's primetime football while you sound like you're broadcasting through a potato. So everything is just about as it should be as we get ready for the Titans to try and avoid an 0-4 start in Miami.
Okay, I think it's the AirPods. Let me take the AirPods out and then we'll try this. I think that's what's disrupting my microphone situation here. But yes, you still haven't answered the question of what the hell you're doing in my chair.
This is just better. I can make better eye contact with Reed in this situation that we are particularly in today. I'm not very happy about it. I like my spot over there. I miss it. I have my trinkets. I know where everything is. I have the muscle memory of going over to hit on and off on my microphone when I do remember to turn my mic on to talk. So I'm as unhappy about it as you are, but we plug on through.
All right. Do I sound less like I'm broadcasting from a potato?
More of a baked potato now, but it is an improvement.
Well, that's not legal in Florida, as has been discussed. So no baked potatoes down here at this point in time. So yes, how's morale this morning? Because I'm curious to feel or to get the vibe of the fan base today, because yesterday, when they should have been in peace, when they should have been relaxed, when they should have been enjoying all the other football games on, whether it was college, because it was an excellent weekend with the nightcap of Alabama and Georgia on Saturday night. I know we're going to get to that at some point throughout the course of this morning as well, briefly, and then we'll probably spend more time on college football later in the week, or I know we'll spend more time on college football later in the week because Lucas is doing the show Wednesday through Friday and I'm out on vacation. So that is definitely going to be the tact in which this show takes. But yesterday, I thought that they were going to enjoy themselves. I thought they were going to have a moment of zen without their football team playing and stressing them out. And yet it seemed that every other former Titan playing on another team had a decent day, either in a win or in a loss, culminating with the cherry on top of Derrick Henry nearly breaking NFL history. And John Harbaugh, I've never been so mad at a coach. I've never been so animated watching a game in my life, keeping an eye on Derrick Henry potentially getting ready to make history, 1 yard away from having 7 200-yard performances, which would have surpassed the tie that he has with O.J. Simpson and Adrian Peterson. It's crazy to me that they wouldn't just run it on 3rd and 4th down and let him get the yard. I don't care that he fumbled and would have had the yard anyway. It pissed me off.
Oh, who cares? He went off. They got the win. They routed the Bills on Sunday Night Football. I promise you, Derrick Henry doesn't care about that today. John Harbaugh doesn't care about that. And Ravens fans don't care about that, as they were waiting for the Derrick Henry game, and they got it. And I have to be honest with you, I totally respected Titans fans, and I was one of those people that said, love Derrick Henry, but I'm not going to root for the Ravens because former Titans legend Derrick Henry is on there. But I cannot lie. When that first run popped, I got out of my couch and I yelled the word "go" at the TV. Just for old time's sake, right? As he just pulled away from those defensive backs. Oh, it was like the old days. I cannot lie. I enjoyed watching Derrick Henry do Derrick Henry things.
The only thing that was missing was Mike Keith in my ear saying 87 yards on his way to pay dirt for a Derrick Henry house call. It was the first time that I got to root for Derrick Henry in a performance. It was a lot of fun for me to be able to take that in as a fan last night. And I also got out of my chair here in my hotel and was yelling at the television, "Go, go," because he was electric last night. 199 yards. But don't tell me you must have not watched the post game. And forgive me, I don't know the name of the NBC sideline reporter for Sunday Night Football. Do you?
Oh, it's Melissa, right? Melissa
Stark, is that correct?
Oh, we'll double check.
Okay, either way. So Melissa Stark, or whomever the sideline reporter is interviewing Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the postgame. She starts with Lamar, and then she goes to Derrick. Melissa Stark. So Melissa asks him about the 199, and he goes, "Yeah, that one's going to haunt me for a while." Don't you tell me that Derrick Henry doesn't care about breaking NFL history.
That's
Lucas,
fine. You know why?
15 yards from 10K. Don't yell over me. We're on Zoom. That's not going to work well today.
You know why he should haunt him?
15 yards from 10K. He's 1 from 200. He is 1 yard from being a lock as a first ballot Hall of Famer, because once you surpass those two, that's different. It doesn't matter how many Super Bowls you have or have not played in. It doesn't matter how many rings you do or do not have. The dude is already a Hall of Famer. That would have made him a lock.
It should haunt him because he fumbled the football on the goal line that would have given him that 1 yard and another touchdown. So I see what he's saying. No, I hear you. It is frustrating to see him get right on the cusp of 199, but I just don't think Ravens fans are sweating it after their 0-2 start to the season, when they hold off the Cowboys on the road for a win and then rout the Bills in prime time. And we really see the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry duo at what we thought it could be, at almost the peak of what we thought it could be at times last night. And that is very exciting for Ravens fans.
Do you think it means less to them than it does to Titans fans? Because of the significance of having seen him do it all here, just like the statistical relevance, right? Because you probably got a good point. I know John Harbaugh didn't care. Clearly, if John Harbaugh cared, he would have let him rush for the yard. Todd Monken doesn't care. He's just trying to get out of there without getting his quarterback and his star running back hurt after he's put together two Derrick Henry-like performances against the Dallas Cowboys and last night against the Buffalo Bills. Now we are down to even fewer undefeated teams in the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings, believe it or not, and of course the Seattle Seahawks will have the opportunity to remain undefeated in their game tonight because we have a Monday Night Football doubleheader. But I wonder if that's an interesting perspective to look at it. If the statistical accomplishments of Derrick Henry at this point in his career mean more to Titans fans than they do Ravens fans, even though Derrick is now on the Ravens roster.
So on the F&M Bank chat, we have Tennessee Titans Superman 47 saying the Ravens play the Texans on Christmas. He will get his 200-yard game. So if he gets his 200-yard game this season and he passes those guys, then the 199 does not matter. But the Ravens are finally looking like the bona fide Super Bowl contenders that we thought they would be. And we put it to a poll. Be honest, did you find yourself rooting for Derrick Henry last night? And I'll be very interested in what the final results say, because I found myself rooting for Derrick Henry last night. So far, 75% of the votes say they found themselves cheering on Henry last night.
Listen, like I said, it's the first time that I got to be a Derrick Henry fan in my career, because obviously I'm not gonna be a fan while he's on the team that I cover or whatever. But I'm gonna be a Derrick Henry fan until the end of time, and I was rooting for him to pull that off last night. I absolutely wanted to see him do it, and I was frustrated with John Harbaugh and Todd Monken at the end of it, because for the first time I got to experience the Derrick Henry experience the way that Titans fans have gotten to over the course of the last 8 years. But that's neither here nor there, and maybe we'll revisit the idea of Derrick Henry and the decision that saw him go to Baltimore and the Titans acquiring Tony Pollard, and Tennessee trying to pull off trying to get off the schneid here. There is only one 0-4 team in the NFL right now. It's the Jacksonville Jags. They are miserable. Doug Peterson is being asked about his job status in the month of September, which is objectively hilarious if you're a Titans fan or anybody else in the AFC South who preys on the demise of their opponents. And for Tennessee, it's not like if Brian Callahan goes 0-4, I don't know that anybody's going to be asking him about his job security. But it's not irrelevant to me, Lucas, that people are asking him about his conversations with Amy Adams Strunk after the 0-3 hole And so if he goes 0-4, again, it would not be anything new because they haven't been 0-3 since 2009. It's not like that history would go back even further. They were 0-4 up to 0-6, I believe it was in 2009. So you're not making any new history in the near future. So that at least you can avoid that unpleasant feeling. But if this man goes 0-4 tonight with a team that spent as much as any team in free agency to try and be meaningfully competitive, it's not going to be the Doug Peterson experience, but we're going to turn up the heat a little bit in ways that I would not have expected in the first month of the NFL season.
And the last time the Titans had this poor of a start to a regular season, they had kind of an ace in their back pocket that this Titans team does not have. And we could talk about that. We could talk about that later in the show.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get involved. I'm here in Miami. Lucas and Reed are back in studio. Your phone calls are welcome. How you feeling? How you feeling about this particular game? And what are the implications in a win for you or in a loss? I'd be curious to get Titans fans' feedback. Like I said, also streaming live on the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back here live from Miami on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Reising here with you. Lucas and Reed are back in the studio. We're going to get to your phone calls here in just a second. Titans and Dolphins squaring off at Hard Rock Stadium in just a few hours from now. Whether you want to talk about Derrick Henry's performance last night, or you want to weigh in on this game, we'd be happy to have you. 615-737-1045 is the number. F&M Bank chat also at your disposal. Lucas, since you have access to the phones, I'll let you queue up the callers.
Yeah, we'll go to Steve, who's a physical therapist, up first to talk about the Titans.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. Buck, did you love the game Saturday night with your son? Had to throw that one in there first, threw you a loop. Did you love it?
With my son?
Yeah, wasn't your son at the game with you with the Alabama-Georgia game on Saturday?
Brother, if I have children, you're the first to inform me. You got some kind of paternity test I don't know about?
Yeah, don't do that. All right, tonight's game. I don't see us winning the game. But as long as we stay close, I'm good with it. But as far as saying, hey, Callahan's got to really have a come to Jesus talk with Amy and all this stuff, it's a complete rebuild. If they probably would have come out and said that, would you feel different about this team, Buck? Last thing. When do you have Nick Holtz call the plays instead of Callahan?
I love that we're 3 weeks in. I'm still kind of confused about the whole son thing.
I don't know. I have no idea what that was about.
Are you my son? Is that the reference that he's making? I'm very confused. Anyway.
Can a son disown his father?
Yeah. I mean, that's called what's it called? There's a whole procedure for that. Perhaps we should call Judy Justice and see what her input is on the emancipation. That's what it's called.
I don't know. That a strange front end to the call, but an interesting question on the back end of if the Titans had approached this offseason as though it was a rebuild, would we be thinking differently about an 0-3 start? They very much did not approach this offseason as if it was a rebuild. They approached it as though they could meaningfully compete, spending the most amount of money in the NFL in the offseason.
Yeah, I just don't think there's any situation in which, is it going to be this year if they make drastic changes, or would they ride this thing out to allow everything to kind of settle in, the dust to kind of settle around whatever this season becomes, and then make determinations? This is always the kind of crux that I think you get stuck in, right? With how soon is too soon to rip the Band-Aid off. I think we brought this up last week, right? With Vrabel and Dennis Daly. How long did it take them to switch from Dennis Daly at left tackle in the 2022 season to Dylan Radins? It was like week 14 or 15 against the Los Angeles Chargers. And by the time they finally made the switch, Radins tore his ACL and they had to go back to Dennis Daly. So it was all just a house of cards type situation. And whatever the right decision would have been, it didn't matter because they ended up back in the Daly thing. So to take the play calling away from Callahan, when the whole purpose of hiring an offensive-minded head coach is to protect yourself from coaching attrition on the offensive side of the football, which honestly I think did Mike in as much as him butting heads with Amy and some people on the business side of things, that he just couldn't replace year after year LaFleur and Art and struggled with Downing and then with Tim Kelly after the roster fell to pieces as well. So I would be surprised if I guess the way to look at it is how much losing is it going to take to genuinely embarrass Amy Adams Strunk and piss her off? Because that seems to be the impetus for any kind of change around here, which is not something that I can predict. It's not something that the fans predict. It's probably not something that the coaching staff or the front office can predict. But the thing that seems to incite change the fastest around here is when you bother her and then she makes a change, right?
Sorry, Reed was talking to me. So speaking of embarrassment, what just happened last week?
Well, they got pants. They got pants by Malik Willis.
By the guy that they just traded for a 7th-round pick because he just couldn't cut it to even be the backup here. Mm-hmm. So it feels like there's been a moment in every season, 2 years ago in Philly, A.J. Brown shreds the Titans. Amy Adams Strunk is there Eagle fans are going crazy in front of her. Last year, the Texans pants the Titans while they're wearing the Oilers uniforms at Nissan Stadium. And this year, you have Malik Willis coming back and embarrassing you at Nissan Stadium in front of Titans fans. So we've had one of those every single year for each of the last 3 seasons. Is there another one on the horizon? I don't know. I mean, we talked about, it sounds like the Titans are going to wear Oilers uniforms against the Texans again this year. So could
Week 18, baby.
Yeah,
Week 18.
Could that happen again? I don't know. Hopefully the Texans are clinched at that point and they're benching everybody. I don't know. But we've kind of already had the embarrassing moment this year with Malik coming in here and beating you.
Oh, no. If you don't think that there's opportunity for embarrassment up and down the schedule, brother, there is a date in Buffalo. Now, the only difference is they're not going to be on prime time, right? A lot of it can be washed away by the fact that you're covered up in the noon slate. But she does seem to have a particular sore spot about winning in the Oilers uniforms, doesn't she? Since she fought so hard to get to make sure that, you know, everybody understands that these are the Titans uniforms. They're not the Oilers uniforms. They don't belong to Houston. And every time they lose in them, or whenever they lose in them, or whenever they get embarrassed, next to the success that Houston is having, people would rather see C.J. Stroud in the Houston Oilers uniforms now than they would Will Levis. I think that is something to keep an eye on. Do we have more calls?
Yeah, let's go to BJ, who is retired, wants to talk about Derrick Henry. Hey, BJ.
Hey, it's EJ, number one.
EJ. Sorry, EJ.
Number two, no problem. I was in the hospital the first 5 months of this year, and I missed the Derrick Henry trade. Why did they trade him? What was the rationale?
Well, they didn't trade him. His contract expired. He was a free agent, and he wanted to go win a Super Bowl. It's not. Here's the thing about the Derrick discussion, right? Like, maybe you're somebody who said, well, the Titans should have tried harder to keep him, or the Titans should never have let him go to Baltimore of all places, or whatever. He's a free agent. Like that, it's his decision. He was ready to go to Baltimore at the trade deadline last year. I know this for a fact. He was getting ready to pack up his whole operation when the Ravens were sniffing around at the deadline because he's tired of losing. He's tired of losing. Now, there's no guarantee. I have no idea what Derrick Henry on this particular roster would have looked like. I can tell you that they had no interest in trying to keep him when they gave Tony Pollard a contract that is about the same amount of money that Derrick Henry is making over the course of a 2-year deal with the Ravens. Now, of course, Derrick is older, but like Derrick still got plenty of gas in the tank, and he wants to be competitive. And there is no disputing that despite, I know they just got to 500 and they've won 2 straight after starting the season 0-2 in Baltimore, but there is no question that Derrick Henry is on a more competitive roster now than he would be even still if he was here in Tennessee. And I don't know what kind of, there's no sensible way to go through the hypothetical, right? Of, okay, let's say they make Derrick Henry a Godfather offer. Well, then what does that do to the money? Does that impact your ability to get Calvin Ridley? Do you even care? I think that matters because if you don't have a legitimate deep threat to help move, look at how much better the Ravens offense was once Derrick broke that big one, right? Because then you got everybody cheating up in the box. You've eliminated the 2 high safety looks, which everybody in the NFL, including Mel Kiper, is complaining about right now because everybody's got to get down and get ready to make a tackle because Derrick could spring an 87-yarder at any given point, and it opens up opportunities down the field for Zay Flowers or Bateman or whomever to take advantage of in the passing game. Baltimore is more well-equipped to do that right now than you were at the time. So there's no – I just don't think there was any scenario in which he was going to stay here. He was ready to go. It's his decision. He's truly a free agent for the first time in his career. I know they franchise tagged him and then worked out a contract in the COVID offseason. But yeah, the Titans may have had some say in it. They weren't interested in keeping him. He wasn't interested in staying.
We don't need to do the revisionist history on, how could the Titans have let Derrick Henry go, right? Like, we're going to pretend that Derrick Henry would have done that last night behind this Titans offensive line right now. Like, the situation was what it was. Titans were pivoting to a new era.
Baltimore's offensive line has not been good. Like that, I'm having a hard time. Like just off the offensive line stuff. Derrick had 1,000 yards last year behind the worst offensive line in football.
Yeah, but
I have no idea what he could have done.
We did not see a performance like that from Derrick Henry in the last 2 years for the Titans, apart from the Jacksonville game in the regular season finale in his big farewell, right? So
didn't he go crazy against the Bengals? Didn't he have a big game against the Bengals?
He had a 100-yard game against the Bengals. He had a 29-yard touchdown where he's stiff-arming people. But just in terms of the vintage Derrick Henry, I mean, the first snap from scrimmage for the Ravens offense, he breaks the franchise record for the longest touchdown run with 87. It's just insane. So we don't need to do the revisionist history on how things would be different and how could the Titans have let him go. We were on the same page, right? Like hindsight's 2020. We were on the same page that the Derrick Henry era was over in Tennessee. They were pivoting to a new era that doesn't rely as much on running the football. The Ravens offense is in a very unique situation where Henry can take over games, yes, but can also be a complementary piece to the best running quarterback in the NFL. So we don't need to do the revisionist history on how could they have let him go. We were on the same page that era, it was just time as the Titans moved on to the Brian Callahan era, which was supposed to come in and revolutionize this offense. But we are getting the full Derrick Henry experience this year, though, right? I mean, week 1, 13 carries, 46 yards, like just, kind of guts in a touchdown to the first NFL touchdown of the season, but 3.5 yards a carry, and then the 200-yard game a few weeks later. So Baltimore's getting the full experience here.
Well, I mean, you did see that both running backs, both the Titans' main running back, Tony Pollard, and Derrick Henry were trending yesterday. You did see that, yes?
Why Pollard?
Oh, you didn't see that the internet was roasting Tony Pollard because the Titans social media team did something very, very funny.
Oh, right. Yeah, with the hairline. Yeah,
it's a pretty good. Oh no, I think we're going to have a lot to do tomorrow. So I don't know if oh no is going to be at the top of the docket, but the Titans social media team did really, really well to go around the locker room because if they're going to suck, they might as well make good social media content. And asking all the players or almost all the players in the locker room if they've ever cheated on their barber, which, by the way, is a hilarious question and got even funnier responses until the entire point of the video got washed away because the internet seized on Tony Pollard's hairline and said, this is what signing with the Titans will do to you. It had a side-by-side of the day that he was announced his free agent contract and what he looked like in the locker room. I think he just got victimized by a bad camera angle, but both running backs trending on the internet for different reasons yesterday.
We talk too much about the internet on this show. Jeremy is up next to talk about Derrick Henry. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, you beat me to it. Like, we're talking about an offensive line here that gave up 8 sacks in a game. Your running back isn't going to do anything with the defenses in the backfield with them like that, and Derrick Henry wanted out of it. He saw that the writing on the wall, the organization did too, and you were talking about it, about them trying to transition into this new offensive scheme and stuff like that. And I guess that's what's part of been the biggest letdown of it is, these games aren't even close. The blunders and the miscues and the stuff, some of this stuff is complete lack of fundamental capability, and it looks like they're totally lost. Then you go into the preseason, you win 3 games, and everybody's pumped up about what we're about to see, and then it's like, what happened? And everybody's sitting there scratching their heads. And as far as what it's going to take, if this keeps, I'm with Buck. The schedule, this is the NFL. You're going to keep playing like this, it's going to be a long season, and it's deflated, the expectation, and it's frustrating to sit and watch. So hopefully they can come together tonight to do something, but it's frustrating to sit and watch. That's all I got to talk about. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Jeremy. I think that's why, Lucas, I think it might come up more than you might expect, because I think you're completely logical in your answer about, are we really going to do the revisionist history thing with Derrick Henry? How often is Brian Callahan running the football on first down? You know what I'm saying? This new look offense is not new look. It's 16 points per game right now, which is anemic, coming off a 14-point performance, and it's volume running as far as I can tell so far through 3 weeks. So I think, in how the NFL shifts and transitions, ebbs and flows from year to year, and maybe it's not exactly year to year, maybe every 2 years, every 3 years, where we're seeing teams run the air out of the football right now. What's the best way to combat the 2 high safety looks that Mel Kiper is trying to ban because he's tired of explosive, or he's tired of not getting enough explosive passing games? You see teams volume running the football all over the place. It's almost like as soon as the Titans tried to pivot, that the NFL pivoted in the direction that they had been stuck in for the past couple of years. And that, I think, is at the crux of why Titans fans might want to do the revisionist history on the Derrick Henry stuff. It has to be frustrating, right? Of course you're frustrated by it. But the circumstance is what it is, and there's no point in dwelling on the past. We have more phone calls?
No, we don't have more phone calls. But to that point, it is interesting, and I say this knowing the Titans have played 3 games and the rest of the NFL have played 4 games. But the Titans are bottom of the league right now in rushing attempts with 65 total. Top of the league are the Ravens with 138. But let's say the Titans run the ball 30 times tonight. They'll still be bottom half of the league with 90-something total carries as a football team. And I know that they were playing from behind against the Packers. They barely ran the football in that game. But it is a different offense, but the same results. And having that information, that hindsight of still barely putting up 17 points per game, if that, it makes it easier to go back and say, well, good thing we let our best player go, arguably, the best player in franchise history on the offensive side of the ball. But the Titans are not running the ball as frequently as we were used to in the last few years with Henry on the roster.
Of course, like things are going to change when Derrick Henry is not on the roster, right? And to compare them and the Ravens is a futile exercise because not only is it Derrick, it's Justice Hill, it's Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers takes a carry out of the backfield from time to time and things like that. But I honestly, Lucas, because Pollard now has 39 rushes for 158 yards. It's and only 1 touchdown. Levis has 11 carries for 86. Spears 12 carries for 48. That's the surprising part in all of this, that Tajay doesn't have more carries in this offense where we thought the division of labor would be a little bit closer. Ridley has a carry. Burks has 2 on those end arounds, 2 carries for 1 yard. Man, Treylon Burks' production, whether it's passing or rushing, it just pisses you off when you look at it. He's one of the worst producing skill players in football, and they continue to give him snaps, which is mind-boggling to me. We talked to Brian Callahan about that on Friday with the idea of Nick Westbrook-Akina in mind. Hey, what's it going to take? NWI didn't have a target in this year's offense. He's far more the reliable player. But to get back to your point about the rushing offense, I don't think that Brian Callahan would be bottom of the league in rushing attempts if these games had gone to plan. Like, he's trying to control the game. Running the football is a big part of what they did in Cincinnati. And of course, they have explosive playmakers and they have a passing game that can beat you. But the passing game is just the nail in the coffin type stuff. Volume running with Joe Mixon was how they made their bread and butter. I mean, that's what it was. So I think what you're saying about the way that these games have been skewed from first half to second half in particular, the Green Bay game is an anomaly in all this because they were out of it from the jump, it felt like, after the pick 6. But I think that they would be, that at least they would rather be middle of the pack, if not top half of the league in terms of rushing attempt, because that means they're controlling the game.
Fair enough. We've got more calls, and we have to talk about this classic that took place in Tuscaloosa that you and apparently your son were in attendance for.
Reed just texted me and said the caller got me mixed up with Clay Travis, and now I'm pissed. Of all the people to mix me up with, are you kidding me? 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. I'm Buck Reising, live in Miami. It's 1045 The Zone.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken here on South Beach. Lucas and Reed are back in the studio. We're taking your phone calls, getting you ready for Monday Night Football. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Before we move to this Alabama-Georgia game, Lucas, because that was honestly the best football game of the weekend. I know that Titans fans enjoyed the Derrick Henry experience from afar, or maybe they didn't enjoy the Derrick Henry experience from afar last night, but it wasn't a good football game. There wasn't a ton of good NFL games, frankly, over the Sunday and Thursday slate. We'll see if Monday Night Football doubleheader can pick up the slack a little bit. Though, if you to hear Chris Fowler tell it, he's not. Doesn't sound like he's anticipating a barn burner when he's on the call for Titans and Dolphins. Maybe we'll get to that later on in the show. We do have calls to take, though, before we pivot to what was the game of the weekend. Who's up next?
Yeah, Ken, who is retired, wants to talk about the Titans O-line. Hey, Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Hey, how you doing?
What you got?
Good.
Okay, two questions. One, if you're a GM, are you looking for a new right tackle? If not, in the interim, what do you do to help him block because he can't block his grandmother? So do you leave in a tight end? What do you do? Second question, you guys are professionals. I don't understand the professional pass blocking technique that linemen use. I'm an old lineman. If you understand physics, if you're backing up and you got a guy charging at you, he's got a significant advantage over you. So I don't understand the style of pro blocking for passing. That's it.
Thanks for the call, Ken. So it's about how well they anchor. And again, I appreciate you calling us professionals. You may not listen to the show very much because we are anything but I will tell you that they talk about setting and anchoring as a pass blocker, because you're correct. You're already at a disadvantage as an offensive lineman when you're in a pass set. It's why offensive linemen would prefer to run the ball. They would like to attack. They would like to use their strength, their speed, their size to have the advantage in that case. And obviously the advantage is for the defense in pass situations. Now, you see pass blocking around the league. There's not too many guys that are that good or can do it without help. To your point about the right tackle and helping them, they have been chipping. They have been helping with multiple tight ends. In fact, I think that they are trying to see how often, Lucas, they can leave J.C. Latham out on an island as we get further and further into this thing, because that's been the thing that's killed the Titans offense. I mean, there's been many things that have killed the Titans offense the last 2 years, but a big part of that is having to help both tackles, keeping additional guys in pass sets when you could be having them run routes in obvious third down situations or obvious passing situations. So that chip help has been used with Nick Petit-Frere, NPF, and they're trying to see how often J.C. Latham can go without help to see if he can win individually. There's not a lot of dudes that can do it even at the highest levels, right? So that's something that's going to have to be a work in progress, because he's still a rookie after all, even if he's been solid, to his credit. He's been one of their better performing offensive linemen, and at least through the last 2 weeks, Chicago was a rough go for him. And then, to the point about shopping for right tackles, if they wanted to make a move on Chris Hubbard, they could have done it. We were talking about this in the media room on Friday. Did you know Chris Hubbard was with Bill Callahan for 3 years? Did we talk about that on the show?
Yeah, and Tom Pelissero is reporting that multiple Colts players have been suspended for gambling.
Oh, it doesn't count if it was last week. That only works if it was like the sentence before. Get out of here.
I think I said those words to you on the air, and you acknowledged it, and we're like, oh, in Cleveland? Yeah, he played for him 3 years in Cleveland.
Do you know how many things have happened since the last time we've had that conversation? That's not fair for you to do to me at all. Not the way that I do it to you.
We had the best football game of 2024, and it happened on a Saturday.
We'll get to that in a second. So yes, if Hubbard was an option, they would have done it. Now let's talk about this Alabama-Georgia game, to your point, because that really was the game of the weekend. Alabama now moves to the number one team in the country. They leapfrog Texas after this result. Georgia gets blown out in the first half. They rally a little bit, but it's a bad showing from Carson Beck and an even better showing from Jalen Milroe. It was as fun a game that I can remember in college football. Why is college football so much more fun than the NFL? Is it just because the athletes are so much better on defense in the NFL can't have this?
It's been a tough year for people who say the NFL is scripted, because I don't know who these script writers are, but fire them all if this is the script they're writing for the games we're getting on Sundays. I take issue with you saying Georgia rallied a little bit, making it seem like they scored a flimsy 15 points to avoid a shutout in the fourth quarter. Carson Beck connected with Dylan Bell on a 67-yard touchdown to take the lead with 2.5 minutes left in what looked like, for a half second, the most electric comeback in SEC history. Like, if Georgia marches down the field and Carson Beck doesn't throw that interception at the end, let's say there's an alternate universe. I saw Peter Burns tweeting this today. I woke up this morning thinking about an alternate reality where Georgia scores there, Kirby goes for 2, and they win. And we're talking about the biggest comeback in SEC history and praising Carson Beck for bouncing back from a poor first half and expressing concern about Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. But we're not talking about that. So when we talk about this game, there's going to be talk about Georgia losing this game and concern about Kirby Smart. Does he have an Alabama problem? And that is a very fair discussion. He had a Nick Saban problem, but does he actually have an Alabama problem? But we cannot ignore what Georgia did in that second half. And I know the game is played differently when you're up 28-0 versus 0-0 as an Alabama defense, but that was an unbelievable rally by Georgia, led by Carson Beck. The good was really good. The bad was really bad from Beck. And Ryan Williams had one of the best freshman performances I've ever seen in my lifetime. This kid is 17. He's going to be 17 at the end of the season. Like, the former president was in the building. Ryan Williams can't even vote in November. And he caught 6 passes for 177 yards and a touchdown, wearing eye black that said, "Kill everybody," written on his face. And then he posted or changed his profile picture on Instagram to a picture of Michael Vick holding a puppy. After what he did to the Georgia Bulldogs. This kid is something else, an absolute monster. His touchdown pass to give Bama the eventual game-winning lead was unlike anything I've ever seen. And my goodness, I mean, I was buzzing from this game for 24 hours after it ended yesterday. Truly unbelievable stuff.
How much more do you want to talk about this game than talk about all these terrible NFL games today?
I know, it is, man.
I can feel the enthusiasm in your voice change when we pivoted to Georgia, Alabama versus Titans-Dolphins. You honestly sound like Chris Fowler on the call of that game, where he is saying, well, in fact, Reed, can we get that audio at some point? I know it's just twisting the knife on Titans fans, but it was so damn funny to me, not just to hear Chris Fowler on an ESPN broadcast dismissing his call of the game that he was going to be calling of Monday Night Football, but also to hear Kirk Herbstreit giggling like a schoolgirl when Chris Fowler asked the questions. Do you think Titans and Dolphins is going to live up to this on Monday night? I think not.
But what about Kirk Herbstreit, who's on the call for Giants-Cowboys, which was a rock fight on Thursday night, and then he got to go down to Tuscaloosa and be there for just that electric environment in Tuscaloosa. Truly was buzzing about this game. But seriously, though, Kalen DeBoer deserves so much credit. This was such a statement win for Alabama. Reminder, Ryan Williams was committed to Alabama under Saban. Saban retires. Williams decommits. Kalen DeBoer is hired. Ryan Williams recommits to Alabama. Big statement for Kalen DeBoer to win this game and remind people that Alabama was not Nick Saban. Alabama was Alabama. They just happen to have the best coach in the history of the game coaching them. Alabama is very much still Alabama, and they're doing it with the freshman at 17 that Kalen DeBoer kept in Tuscaloosa, and it's got everybody rethinking what the pecking order should be in the SEC right now.
615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. I'm in Eastern time zone, so I almost said the final hour is coming up next, but the second hour is coming up next. We'll talk NFL headlines. We'll get into the Titans-Dolphins injury reports. I'm Buck Reising. It's 1045 The Zone.
Hello.
It is 11:03. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans play tonight in Miami on Monday Night Football. Jeffrey Simmons is doubtful to play with an elbow injury. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed is questionable after being limited at practice Saturday with a groin. And Amani Hooker is questionable with a face injury. Dolphins will start Tyler Huntley at quarterback with Tua Tagovailoa still on injured reserve with a concussion. Running back Raheem Mostert, tackle Teron Armstead, and cornerback Kendall Fuller are all out tonight for Miami. The League Company countdown to kickoff starts at 4 p.m. with the 3HL crew. Titans countdown begins at 5 and kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at 6:30. On Sunday Night Football, the Ravens routed the Bills with a 35-10 win, improving to 2-2 and handing Buffalo its first loss. Derrick Henry, 24 carries for 199 yards, including an 87-yard touchdown run on his first attempt, the longest touchdown run in Ravens history. Also tragic news today in the world of sports as Basketball Hall of Famer Dikembe Mutombo has died at the age of 58 after a battle with brain cancer. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night Football. 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 Monday Night on ESPN.
Well done. Well done, Reed.
Wait, did the music not play? What happened?
That's it. That's the intro. John Sutcliffe is our intro.
Okay, I wasn't sure what happened. It's all right. We're doing this on the fly. Welcome into the show, live from Miami. We are excellently produced, as always, a high-level radio product here from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. That's right. Monday Night Football is on the docket, a doubleheader. Titans and Dolphins up first. 6:15 Central Time, the kick, 7:15 down here in Miami. I'll be on the scene. 3HL has you covered with the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, you also have access to the F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch if you are interested there as well. Lucas, since we had a Sunday off, with no Titans football, and of course Titans football will take place tonight, we have NFL headlines, I assume?
We do have NFL headlines. Reed, if you'll do the honors. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
It is time for NFL headlines with Lucas Panzica.
No, he jumped the gun and everything. Terrible job. Terrible job from the jump, Reed.
And terrible football yesterday, for the most part. I mean, the come down from the Alabama-Georgia game on Saturday was very real in the Week 4 Sunday slate. We will start, of course, in the AFC South, where Joe Flacco is fully back. And he gave the Colts the best quarterback play that they have had all season long by a wide margin. Anthony Richardson left the game in the first half against the Steelers with a hip injury that doesn't seem to be too serious, but I'd love to take a listen at some point at what the conversation is in Indianapolis this week, because Joe Flacco stepped in, went 16 of 26, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't light the world on fire, but gave them competent quarterback play as they beat the Steelers 27-24. They handed the Steelers their first loss of the season. And Reed, do we have Joe Flacco after the game talking about Anthony Richardson and whether or not he thinks Flacco is cool?
Joe Flacco, do you ever age?
Believe me, yeah, I do. Hey. Oh, man. Listen, when you're out here in this environment, no, you feel like you're 12 years old. I mean, I said it last year. Wow. I mean, this is a little bit of a different experience. It's not the best, not the most ideal when you're trotting onto the field, obviously, when your guy goes down. But every time you get a chance to go out there, it's a blessing, and I'm definitely very fortunate for it.
What was clicking so well? Was it the familiarity with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers?
I don't know if everything was clicking super well, but we did enough, you know. And, really was able to rely on some underneath stuff by Josh Downs today, like to kind of get us first downs. He made a couple big third down conversions along with Pittman on that second to last drive, third to last drive. That drive ended up being huge. So you just go rely on your guys and trust the play caller, and everything else takes care of itself.
I do have to tell you, Anthony Richardson told us that you were cooler than he thought he was.
Listen, he told me his mom is 8 days older than I am. So there's no chance in the world that he thinks I'm cool. So,
all right, what about your kids, though? What do you think they think of this one?
This is the first game they've come to this year.
That's a great answer by Joe Flacco. There's no chance in the world Anthony Richardson thinks I'm cool. But he was yesterday as he led the Colts to a win. And I truly am fascinated, Buck, at what that discussion is in Indy right now. I mean, the Colts have won 2 games, right? Like Titans fans, we've all been in that boat of it's so much more important to figure out about Will Levis. Is that the conversation the Colts are having? At what point do they say, hey, man, we're 2-2. We're going to be in this thing. Should we put in the guy that gives us a better chance?
Well, you know what's next for the Colts, don't you? On the schedule, they're at the Jags, which is a place that they have not won since 2014. I was a junior in college the last time the Indianapolis Colts went to Jacksonville and beat the Jags. So this is, I mean, that's a huge game for them. If I'm Steichen, I'm looking around and being like, maybe we let the kid sit for another week. I don't know when their bye week is, but of course, week 6, they are here in Tennessee. You would rather face Richardson if you're a Titans fan than you would Joe Flacco. I think Titans fans have a bit of a complex about backup quarterbacks anyway, and Malik Willis has done nothing to alleviate those concerns. But certainly you would rather see Richardson. Richardson is more of a liability. And Joe Flacco, justice for Joe Flacco. Okay, Joe Flacco played with some of the best quarterbacks during the height of his era, right? And now where quarterback play is clearly taking a dip, you still have Allen and Mahomes and Lamar and Burrow, but for the rest of it, it's just kind of slop, it seems like, elsewhere in the NFL. Joe Flacco looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the sport. By the way, credit to the Colts offensive line. They dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers front that we have not seen a lot of teams do. That was one of the bigger headlines to me outside of the Flacco fun.
Yeah, and college football fans across the country are saying, man, the guy who only played 13 games in college football and never really looked more than an above-average quarterback is struggling to take the league by storm as a second-year player.
Football fans are also saying the same thing about Will Levis every time they get the opportunity. So let's not go too far down that road.
Yes, and they are unfortunately saying I told you so at the moment. Keeping it in the division, the Jags are 0-4, as you mentioned, as they took it down to the wire against the Texans, who scored the game-winning touchdown with 18 seconds left to former Jag Dare Ogunbowale. And C.J. Stroud was great, 27-40, 345, 2 touchdowns. Jags are miserable right now, and this is Doug Peterson after the game when asked about his job status.
Start worrying about your status at this point.
My status?
Yeah. After an 0-4 start.
I mean, no. I mean, it's kind of a strange question, but okay.
Not kind of a strange question. You start 0-4 in year 3, you are going to get these type of questions, and it's strange to see Doug Peterson so taken aback by that question instead of prepared for it, which he should be. The Jags look awful with the quarterback they just paid $220 million to.
It's not just that though. Their defense sucks. Like their defense, they spent a lot of money on defense too. You know what I'm saying? Like I know Darnell Savage missed this game, and Lloyd, Devin Lloyd, Josh Hines, Allen dealing with a concussion. Like they're down a few pieces and parts, but it's a collective disaster. Ryan Nielsen was brought in here to take this defense, help take this team to the next level. He's the defensive coordinator who did an excellent job in Atlanta last year. They're 0-4. Their season is effectively over. This is why tonight's game is so critical. I feel like I've done must win for the last 3 weeks on the Titans, even though the season is only for them 3 weeks old and will be 4 weeks tonight. Because if you're 0-4, you're banged. We're doing draft talk tomorrow. If you lose this game, whether Lucas likes it or not, I'm going to have to drag him by the hair, kicking and screaming, while instead of talking about college football, we talk about who the Titans and the Jags would be jockeying for with the number 1 overall pick.
I'll protest. I'll protest.
Hell.
I'll take a knee. I will take a knee for 3 hours. My knee will be so sore by the end of the show. I will bring knee pads. I will bring knee pads and take a knee from the start of the show to the end if we're going to do draft talk tomorrow. Real quick, just rapid fire.
Man, then you need this football team to win a damn game.
You're telling me.
Everybody. I maintain objectivity, even though my objectivity has gone by the wayside because they piss me off with each passing week. I need them to win a damn football game because I have no interest in draft talk on October the 1st.
Rapid fire headlines on the way out. Browns are still bad. Deshaun Watson, not good. 20-16 loss at home to the Raiders. They are 1-3, and they've got a road trip to Washington next, who looks like a world beater. Jaden Daniels is the envy of every NFL fan base with a young quarterback that is struggling. 280 total yards, 2 total touchdowns, 42-14 win over the Cardinals. It's the highest point total by the Commanders franchise since 2016 as Cliff Kingsbury gets his revenge. The Chiefs came back to beat the Chargers 17-10. Rashee Rice, though, is feared to have a torn ACL. He left that game with a knee. The Broncos won ugly over the Jets 10-9 at MetLife. There was nobody at MetLife Stadium. I don't know if you saw any of this game. The crowd was pitiful. Weather was bad. It was raining, but I don't know.
The Jets-Broncos game. Yeah, I went to a bar for the second half of the early slate because all I could get on my TV was Jets Broncos, and then what was the other game? It was lopsided. I can't remember. It was
a lot of lopsided games. But Bo Nix wins this game with 60 passing yards.
That's Bucks Eagles.
Bucks Eagles, also terrible. Bo Nix, 60 pass yards. It's the fewest pass yards by a winning quarterback with at least 20 attempts in NFL history. And for the first time ever in a weekend where the Jets and Giants both play at MetLife, neither score a singular touchdown. 10-9 the final at MetLife, Broncos over Jets. And the 49ers cruise over the Patriots, 30-13. Fred Warner had an electric pick six in this game, but left with an ankle as injury problems continue to stack up for the Niners.
Coming up next, speaking of injuries, the Titans and the Dolphins. You haven't probably seen the latest on the injury report unless you were scouring the internet on Saturday. So we'll get you updated with that and some critical parts for the Titans that are in question for this game. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken here on this Monday. Titans and Dolphins on tap tonight here in Miami, where I'm hanging out. Lucas and Reed are back in the studio. Your phone calls are welcome. What is the biggest advantage for Tennessee trying to do the improbable? They're an underdog, not as big an underdog as they were last year, of course, when they played this very same game on Monday Night Football against Miami, a team that was much further along in the season, a Titans team that had much less to play for. It ended up being the biggest point spread upset of the NFL season last year. This game, the stakes are a little less. Both teams floundering a little bit, no pun intended. 0-3 are the Titans, 1-2 are the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, of course, having been knocked out with a concussion. He is on injured reserve. And for those of you who have not been updated with the latest on the Titans injury or either side of the injury report, the Dolphins do have a longer list of players that are questionable, doubtful, or out. But the Titans do have their longest injury report of the year, and worth paying attention to at this point because it's primarily the defense. The offense is largely intact, which has been their problem, their bigger problem than the defense. Of course, the defense getting dummied by Malik Willis a week ago, more than a week ago, is the thing that is looming the largest. But now Chidobe Awuzie officially placed on injured reserve with a groin injury, Lucas. How he comes back from that is also going to be interesting to monitor. Kind of like Elijah Molden a couple of years ago, who was in and out of the lineup with a groin injury, ended up missing the bulk of the year. That's not an easy injury to come back from. We'll see how many games. He's going to miss at least 4 games, this one being the first one. Jeffrey Simmons is doubtful, did not practice at all this past week with an elbow. L'Jarius Sneed is on the injury report with a hammy. He is questionable after not practicing on Thursday, full go on Friday. They limited him on Saturday. He was a limited participant. That's more of a walkthrough type situation. He is also questionable. Amani Hooker is questionable for this game. All it says on the injury report is face, which is objectively funny. If you don't know what happened to Amani Hooker, he made it sound like something in his helmet came loose on Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers. He has an awful gash in like the middle of I want to say it's his left cheek, if I remember correctly, where he has sustained a pretty significant cut on his face. So we'll see whether they put him out there or not. But the defense is not looking too terrifying coming up against a Dolphins offense that seems like it could be taken advantage of. For the Dolphins, for what it's worth, Teron Armstead, their starting left tackle, he's out with a concussion. You have Kendall Fuller, also one of their starting corners, out with a concussion. David Long, no revenge game for him. It seems he is doubtful with a hammy injury. Somewhere Mike Vrabel is smiling at the idea of repeat offenders. You have 3 questionable players. Raheem Mostert, who I saw Tom Pelissero, I believe, this morning report he is expected to play. Their running back, Skylar Thompson, is going to miss this game with a rib injury because Snoop Huntley is going to start, and Tim Boyle is going to be the backup quarterback in this game. Malik Washington, one of their wide receivers, also questionable with a quad injury. I have not seen the latest on his status. So, Titans defense coming off a poor performance, in particular highlighted by poor tackling. How many games have you seen where you have 15 missed tackles for north of 150 total yards, which was the case against Green Bay here over a week ago? This is something. Oh, and also here of note, defensive passing game coordinator and cornerbacks coach Chris Harris will miss Monday's game. I must have missed this when the initial injury report came out. His duties will be taken by secondary coach Steve Jackson. So I don't know how that impacts the play calling chain of command, how things get organized. Fair to expect that they've had at least some time to prepare for this. I don't know what's happened with Chris Harris that he would miss this game, but it sounds like there will be a bit of a shakeup as far as the organizational process on the defensive side of the ball, which is something to keep an eye on as well. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's interesting. So no reason given, personal reason, no idea.
No, frankly, and that's a bad job by me. I did not see that until I opened up the injury report again today and saw that little note at the bottom of the injury report. So I haven't talked to anybody about that.
I would disagree when you say the Dolphins' offense is largely intact. I get what you're saying, that they're not as plagued in terms of the list of names as the defensive side. But when you're missing your best tackle in Teron Armstead, Raheem Mostert is not expected to play today. That's according to Tom Pelissero from earlier that he reported. And, of course, your starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, which kind of makes this offense go from a rhythm standpoint. It's hard for me to call this Dolphins offense largely intact and not look at this as a massive opportunity again for the Titans. But we said that last week, going in against Malik Willis and the Packers coming to Nissan Stadium. So it's hard to really know what to make of this matchup when you see all these advantages playing out, where we had that last week and the Titans got punked at home. But it'll be interesting to see if Ridley or Hopkins can take advantage of their matchup that is not named Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if Ramsey's going to travel with either of those guys, if he's just going to line up with whoever's on that side of the field. But it seems like Storm Duck, which is just an all-time name, is going to line up against Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins for multiple snaps in this game. Can they take advantage the way that DeAndre Hopkins was able to take advantage of Miami last year, or in a way that they haven't really been able to throughout the course of this season consistently?
Well, and the thing, though, that the disadvantage for the Titans is the Dolphins' front against this offensive line, because Calais Campbell, the ageless wonder, he has 3 tackles for loss and 2 sacks on the season. He's leading them. Seiler and Emmanuel Ogbah have also been active. Will Levis does not want to see Zach Seiler again after throwing a pick 6 to him and trying to make a goal line stop on him, just bouncing off the defensive tackle's shoulder and letting him score anyway. That honestly is where the advantage lies, I think, if you're Miami, because you look at this Titans offensive line, they're clearly still trying to get their stuff together, and your best unit right now is your defensive front. So does Levis even have the time to take advantage of the matchups downfield? That's been the problem with the Titans passing game as I see it. If you want to attribute any kind of blame to more than just the quarterback, more than just the personnel on the field, right? Because there are some execution issues. There's no denying that. And of course, the thing that we'll talk about later is the turnover differential. They continue to be wretched as far as turning the ball over and not getting turnovers, which is a big part of this. But their play concepts take too long to develop, and they don't go back to their quick game stuff often enough as far as I'm concerned. That's been one of the more confusing parts of it to me. In talking to the coaching staff and talking to the players, I know that Hopkins is excited for the matchup. Obviously, that goes back to both of their times in the AFC South, with Hop on the Texans and Ramsey with the Jags. So those two are intimately familiar with each other. It's going to be a low-scoring game, right? I mean, the idea that the Titans have a better offense in 2024 than the Miami Dolphins is hilarious. But the Titans are scoring 16 a game, and the Dolphins are scoring 11. And now they're dropping in a practice squad quarterback who has had a week to prepare. Like, they've had time to get him ready for this game. They've had extended time, given that they play on Monday Night Football. But that's not an easy thing to ask Snoop Huntley to do behind a couple of backups on their offensive line. I just don't know that. I don't know that there is going to, unless there is a significant adjustment on the part of the coaching staff as far as what this game plan looks like. Their play concepts, their passing game concepts take too long to develop behind this offensive line, and he's sacked or pressured before he has the opportunity to get the ball out to one of these receivers to take advantage of those matchups that he might have downfield.
It is weird, right? Because we thought of that as a strength of this offense. They're always being an answer, always being something to fall back on. And maybe it's the pressures and moments where that answer is there, and Will Levis doesn't even have the chance to take it. But that has been one of the more perplexing things about the start they've had.
Well, and which group of skill players benefits more from facing backup secondary players, right? Is it going to be the Titans who are going to go against some Dolphins backups, or is it going to be the Dolphins who have speed? Regardless of who's playing quarterback, they have speed that you can't imitate anywhere else in the league. They have a very, very unique set of personnel. I know Waddle hasn't done much this year, and I know Mike McDonald, the Seahawks coach and defensive-minded head coach in Seattle did a hell of a job to take Tyreek Hill out of that game. They had an excellent game plan, which if you're a Titans fan, you hope Denard Wilson took some pointers away from. Jeff obviously, though, is the big one here because Snead, I think it's more likely than not that he's out there. Jarvis Brownlee, who was on the radio show, is going to make the start for Cheeto Awuzie. He was on the radio show on Friday. Good interview there. If you missed any of it, he's a Miami native. He's gonna be playing in front of a lot of hometown people. There's going to be a lot of pressure on a young player, a fifth-round rookie corner, regardless of how Mike McDaniel tries to pinpoint the matchups, because he's going to try and get Tyreek Hill on that fifth-round rookie in a couple of spots.
So you mentioned Brownlee is going to get that opportunity, and Brownlee, obviously a former Louisville Cardinal. His former teammate is Storm Duck, who seems like will get an opportunity with Kendall Fuller being out for the Dolphins. So Duck was at North Carolina and then transferred to Louisville to play with Brownlee. It is his given name, Storm Duck. He is the son of Phyllis and Todd Duck, born in Boiling Springs, North Carolina, and he was named after Storm Logan, who is a character on the soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful, which we have on in this studio on a routine basis.
Oh, what a full circle moment for the show. To hell with the Dolphins Titans analysis. That's way better than
I can't stop thinking about Storm Duck. I mean, that's just incredible.
615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. You can also interact there on the F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We're getting you ready for the Titans and the Dolphins here later tonight. Of course, a reminder that you can hear all that coverage on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Brad and Kayla and myself, we're not on the Lead Company Countdown to Kickoff tonight. That's going to be 3HL. They'll have that starting at 4 this evening with the kickoff locally at 6:15. Hey, a quick reminder that the Kick Childhood Cancer thing is still going on through today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. We want to try and raise as much money as humanly possible for that. Nashville Soccer Club and Cumulus are joining forces once again to kick childhood cancer now through the month of September. All funds raised will support the pediatric cancer program at Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. To learn more or to donate, please visit 1045thezone.com/kickcancer today. I'm going to make sure that I donate again, Lucas. I hope that the audience does that as well. It's a great opportunity. I know you and Nashville SC have been working very, very hard to raise funds for Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital.
Yeah, you can donate by texting Nashville SC to 51555. All funds support the pediatric cancer program at Monroe Carroll. And the cool thing is, if you donate, you will get a piece of art from one of the patients that participated in the art therapy program at Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. So again, text Nashville SC to 51555. Let's go back to the phones here. 615-737-1045. Terry, who is retired, wants to talk about Jeffrey Simmons. Hey, Terry.
Hello. How y'all doing?
Good. What you got?
We're good.
Okay, now who's going to play Jeffrey Simmons tomorrow? Tonight, rather.
Well, it's fair to expect that you'd see an increased snap count from Sebastian Joseph Day, who's one of their primary defensive linemen. It's going to be interesting to see whether they try to move him more inside, because obviously if Jeff isn't out there, and it's likely that he's not out there, the double teams will then shift to Sweat, who's already not going to play a huge amount of snaps. Lucas, we got a heat advisory down here in South Florida. It is going to be brutal. I know that Tavondre Sweat has been, practicing and working in the Middle Tennessee heat, but this is different. It's like the condensation on all of the hotel windows and restaurant windows and stuff like that. It's thick. If you breathe in, it feels like you're underwater here. Sir, I know this is a night game, but at kickoff, the sun is still going to be up. So I think that is something to keep an eye on with Sweat, with his conditioning. That's going to be a huge part, but fair to expect that there would be a larger role for Sebastian Joseph Day this evening, who's already a starter. And then the depth will be tested, of course. They added a practice squad defensive lineman. We haven't seen call-ups yet as of this morning, if I'm not mistaken, from practice squad to active roster. So something to keep an eye on there as well. That rotation is definitely gonna. It's. There's no question it's thinner for whatever, because there have been some criticisms, right, from Titans fans about Jeff. They want more from Jeff Simmons. Jeff has been fine as far as I'm concerned. I can see him out there being game planned for, people trying to take him out of the game. He's still finding ways to shed blocks, make plays, impact the passing game. I think he creates pressure for others. This is still one of the worst pressure defenses in football, which is something that we could have expected. Jeff has not been a problem to me, not been unproductive, but I think Titans fans want him to be special, and we haven't seen that kind of a performance from Jeff Simmons just yet.
Speaking of impacting the passing game, I'm curious at how many snaps we see for Nick Westbrook-Akine versus Treylon Burks tonight. NWI, who got 13 snaps against the Packers to Burks' 26. So Burks had twice the snaps he did. We've not seen Treylon Burks take advantage of any opportunity given to him so far this season. Is there a breaking point there for this coaching staff to give Nick Westbrook-Akine that opportunity back? Thinking back to the Dolphins game last year, he was impactful in that game. He caught the 2-point conversion that was part of the Titans' comeback effort in that game, and you just know what you get in Nick Westbrook-Akine. So I'm wondering if there is a breaking point in that regard for this staff and if we see it tonight.
Well, I have that in the grid to talk about at 12:20, so we'll jump in on that conversation a little later on. 615-737-1045, because that is something that we talked to Brian Callahan about on Friday, which was the last day of media availability for us. Coming up next, though, former Titans have a day while this team had the day off. We'll get into it coming up next, live from Miami. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken here in Miami. A lot of bad football yesterday. The college football slate was certainly more exciting. A lot of lopsided results, but for Titans fans, I was happy for them. They were going to get a day of peace. They were going to get a day of zen. Somebody tweeted me and asked me how I was spending my day off. I was on South Beach. I was on the beach, taking in all the sights and sounds, enjoying the sunshine and everything that it had to offer. And then I came back to the hotel, Lucas, at a certain point, looked up, and Jeremy McNichols, Titans legend, is out here scoring 2 touchdowns in a 42-14 win over the Arizona Cardinals. By the way, the Commies, 3-1 at this point. They are also on the Titans schedule later on in the season. Jaden Daniels looking like the truth at this point. That's the only one of my preseason predictions that I feel confident about is him for Offensive Rookie of the Year, provided that nothing catastrophic happens. But it was a day for former Titans across the Sunday slate. So even on a day without Titans football, Titans fans could not be left in peace to enjoy the games because former Titans were performing all over the place. When Titans fans are having FOMO about Christian Fulton picking off Patrick Mahomes, that they are in a very, very bad mental state.
Yeah, McNichols had 8 carries for 68 yards and the 2 touchdowns. So he averaged 8.5 yards per carry, including an electric 27-yard touchdown that put them up 14-7 in the second quarter. Christian Fulton,
call him by his proper name.
McWeapon.
It's McWeapon.
Christian Fulton had the interception and returned it for 29 yards. And then Bud Dupree made some plays. He had 2 sacks for the Chargers in that loss, 17-10 against the Chiefs.
That's not just him. Elijah Molden was out there making plays. And now I know the Chargers went on to lose. The Chiefs, are 4-0 despite half of their roster falling apart. Unfortunate for Rishi Rice that he is done for a year. And it looked like an injury that might have been caused by his own quarterback trying to stop was that the
It was on the return. It was on the interception return by Fulton. Yeah.
So Molden is out there making plays. Hell, Tier Tart is even making plays against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how half the Titans roster ended up in L.A. on the Chargers, who, by the way, the Titans will also see later in the year. But it was an interesting day of football. If you're following just the Titans legends jokes that I like to make on the internet, it was quite a day for several people that used to be in two-tone blue.
Did anybody else? Did we cover them all? Fulton, Dupree, Molden, McWeapon, anybody else?
I think that was the extent of it because the vast majority of players that are no longer on this roster by nature of being cut are probably not doing much in the league at this point. There's the one. There's the one who was on Sunday Night Football. I don't know if you want to rehash that whole situation. The one that hurts the most.
Yeah, we talked about that. A.J. Brown is one that is not, does not have Titans fans seething at their televisions because he's made zero impact so far this season dealing with a hamstring injury. And the Eagles offense look worse for it. I don't know if it's going to get better when AJ comes back, but they were kind of run off the field in Tampa. The Eagles were. That was a 24-0 game before Philly even got on the board. And they made it a 2-possession game in the second half, but it never really felt like the Eagles were truly in that game. And AJ, they're 2-2. So, not all is lost, but that passing game just does not look very efficient right now, and A.J. Brown's not there to help it.
Well, Devontae Smith, I think Derrick hurts Titans fans worse than A.J. does at this point, but Devontae Smith also missed that game in Tampa Bay yesterday. I couldn't believe Tampa was hosting a home playoff game after the devastation of Hurricane Helene, and I hope that South Florida down here on this coast was not impacted. It was primarily the Gulf that took the beating, and Tampa, Tallahassee, the devastation was everywhere. So still keeping those folks in our thoughts and hope. And by the way, people in East Tennessee, people in Asheville, North Carolina. People in Nashville that were impacted. Nashville got more hurricane impact than Miami did, ironically enough, based on talking to people around here. But yeah, AJ's hamstring injury is something to keep an eye on because the Eagles, they feel like, I know like you said, they're 2-2, but they feel like they're hanging by a bit of a thread. Like every game now for I'm blanking on the coach's name.
Sirianni?
Nick Sirianni, every game for Nick Sirianni feels like the moment that they might pull the plug. Certainly the fan base is already trying to run him out for Belichick, which is pretty interesting enough. And it's not just the fan base. A lot of Eagles media people that I follow have already started that discussion about whether Nick Sirianni is the right person to continue to oversee that. So the more time that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith miss and the more pedestrian that Eagles offense looks, I know we're only 4 weeks into the NFL regular season, but this coaching cycle with Belichick out there looming large over everything, whether it's Jacksonville or Philadelphia, or we'll see what happens with the Giants or any of these other jobs. He is going to have maybe his pick of jobs. I'm not sure how that's going to go down, but it's not about former Titans today. Of course, it's about this current team trying to get right, trying to get up off the mat, and doing it against a Miami Dolphins team that is also reeling and dealing with many, many more injuries than is the team that is visiting here today. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you're surprised by this. Do you know what the Titans' record is against the spread, Lucas?
This season?
This season.
Oh, let me think. Are they still favored in Miami, by the way? I know they were.
No, once they announced this is how bad Vegas is on the Titans. They are a 2.5 point underdog to the corpse of the Miami Dolphins offense at this point, because they were, prior to the quarterback announcement being made, they 1.5 point favorite in this game.
I would say 0-3, right? I mean, it has to be 0-3. I know they were favored against the Packers at home, and they obviously did not cover against the Bears, but yeah,
they're 0-3 against the spread. You want to guess what the Dolphins are?
Are they also 0-for?
They're also 0-for against the spread, which is something to keep an eye on if you're betting this game. Right now, you can get Miami -2.5. The Miami money line is -144, and the over/under set at a paltry 37 for two offenses that cannot, for the life of them, score 20 points per game to date. The way that this is going to play out, because the percentages of pass versus run for these two teams are also pretty similar. Tennessee has only rushed on 33.7% of its plays. For Miami, it's 35.4%. The percentage of passing plays, of course, then is 66.3 for Tennessee and 64.6 for the Dolphins. It's also a product of both teams trailing. This is the thing, though, that pisses me off the most about the Titans, and I'm sure drives Titans fans crazy, is that they're doing this nonsense with leads. They get leads in these games early on, and then they squander them, which is the thing that, for the life of Todd Downing couldn't score Todd had a streak there for a while of opening possession touchdowns, and then also would fall off a cliff. But this is a team that, not just in the second half, but in the fourth quarter, has really, really struggled to score points. I genuinely don't know which team has the advantage between these two, because I'm looking at both of them with negative EPA per run and per passing plays at this point. Their strength of schedule, Miami's definitely had a harder go of it to date, but still, I cannot for the life of me get a grasp on how this game is going to play out. And nor could I last year with Monday Night Football. We'll talk more about how much of the themes, even though it's a different offense, it's a different coaching staff, it's largely a different roster. We'll relive some of that Monday Night Football game between the Titans and the Dolphins here in the final hour, here in just a second, in the improbable way that they came back to win that game. That Monday nighter last year, they were huge underdogs in that game. Tyreek Hill missed about a half, not quite 30 minutes, but he did miss a good chunk of the second and third quarters before he came back in and started to make an impact. So obviously that had a role to play. But we will dive into it here in just a second with 3 keys to beating the Dolphins coming up next.
And one of those keys involves one former Titan and a particular weakness of his that Titans fans bemoaned the entire time he was here. And now suddenly the Titans have a chance to take advantage of that weakness. So be interesting.
I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
12:02, good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans play tonight in Miami on Monday Night Football. Jeffrey Simmons is doubtful to play with an elbow injury. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed is questionable after he was limited at practice Saturday with a groin. And Amani Hooker questionable with a face injury. The Dolphins will start Tyler Huntley at quarterback with Tua Tagovailoa still on injured reserve with a concussion. Running back Raheem Mostert reportedly is not expected to play. Tackle Teron Armstead and cornerback Kendall Fuller are out tonight as well. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff starts at 4 p.m. with the 3HL crew. Titans countdown begins at 5 and kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night. Monday Night Football. 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 Monday Night on ESPN. Monday Night Football. Monday Night.
Oh, it looped. It looped.
I mean, just once. Just once can we do this?
Yeah, but you know what we are? You know what we are? We're consistent. We're consistent. And sometimes that's all you can ask.
Isn't that the thing that's the most important thing to have is consistency? Isn't that what they tell you with teams? Oh, well, we just got to be consistent. That is the thing that drives me up a wall the most that I hear from coaches. Oh, consistency. Well, what if you're consistently bad like this radio show is? Then you're a disaster. Then you have no redeeming qualities. Welcome in. It's the final hour from Miami here on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas and Reed are back there in the studio. I'm just glad to know that the tradition of mediocrity continues, even though I travel, you guys uphold that strong and proud tradition that the radio show has become known for over the course of these last 3.5 years. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. You can jump in there at any point. Also on the F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. The chat has been insightful as always, so we appreciate your comments there. That's right. Monday Night Football between the Titans and the Dolphins. They are the first game up in a doubleheader. Detroit and Seattle are also on tap later on. And with everything that this team has working against it right now, both teams have working against it right now between Tennessee and Miami. It may just be us here locally and the fans down here in Miami paying attention to this one, which was the case last year. This was a game that was, I don't know if it was, actually it was a part of the doubleheader last year. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman did not, they continue to avoid having to call Titans-Dolphins games at this point, but there was not a lot of attention paid. The Titans were huge underdogs in that game. And then, of course, they did the thing that nobody, including Titans fans, expected them to do, which is come back in the final 3.5 minutes and win this thing. So can they do the same tonight? Will it take a comeback, given that the Dolphins are literally limping into this game? You have the advantage of injury luck at this point if you're Tennessee. Can they capitalize? Because here's the thing that probably drives you up a wall the most. Well, there's many things that probably drive you up a wall about what it is that this team has been unable to accomplish at this point, but they've been the beneficiaries of advantageous matchups, right? You should have been able to beat Malik Willis, and instead Malik Willis comes into Nashville and just smokes you. You should be able to beat the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, without their starting left tackle, without one of their starting corners, and people are very uncertain about this because I don't know what the vibe is among Titans fans right now. The majority of Titans fans, right? I don't know where their psyche is with the quarterback at this point. There has been some good football in there for Will Levis. My position is, yeah, but the bonehead mistakes make me not trust him, and that means that it hasn't been good football that he's played, even though that there have been redeeming qualities on that. You feel similarly, or you push back against that?
No, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. And what you're saying, that theme goes back to week one. You had Caleb Williams' first ever game as an NFL quarterback. And as we know, that game was essentially, I mean, you had that game won. You had Aaron Rodgers and the Jets coming on a short week of prep after the Monday Night Football loss to San Francisco. Rodgers' second ever start for the Jets since blowing out his Achilles in week one of last year. So it has been all set up well for you to, I mean, at least be 2-2 at this point in the season. And now, or I suppose 1-2. Now we have week 4 where it's a similar situation where we're walking in saying, okay, the opportunity is right there. It's the Dolphins, but it's not really the Dolphins. They don't have Tua Tagovailoa. They don't have Raheem Mostert. They don't have one of their starting corners. So can they take advantage?
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. What is the Titans' biggest advantage here in Miami on Monday night? So let's do some keys to beating the Dolphins, and I'll start with some audio from the head coach. Brian Callahan was asked about one thing. This was the Monday after Green Bay, so not the immediate post game, but the Monday after press conference, and the head coach is asked, Brian, if you had to fix one thing about your football team to get this thing back on track, what would it be? And this is Brian Callahan.
No, I'm not turning the ball over. That's clear as can be. I mean, we're last in the league in turnover margin. We're -7. And that doesn't count the block punts. So that's, to me, in my mind, that's -9 in 3 games. Of those 7 turnovers on offense, 14 points directly went back the other way. One of the punts directly went back the other way, so that's 21 points. I think we've lost 2 games by 7 points and 1 by 16, and there's your margin. That's a really, really hard thing to overcome, the volume and the frequency of them and how crushing they've been. If even that sack fumble, we're on the 30-yard line. It's a 2-score game. It's, even if we get a field goal there, or at least it's a 10-point game at the top of the fourth quarter, and it feels a little bit different. But then, we get sack fumbled and the ball gets turned over again. So, and then we haven't gotten a single turnover on defense through 3 games, which is, I've not seen that very often. They just can't get it to break our way right now. Can't get the ball out. Part of that's because in this game they were able to control it pretty well. But yeah, if you want to look at one single thing right now that's getting in the way of us winning football games, that's turning the ball over. And most of the teams down there with us in the margins, if they're down at -7, 5, 4, 3, most of those guys are probably 1-2, 0-3, whatever that looks like. So the turnover statistics in the NFL are glaring. It's not a mystery. You're in a plus. You're well into the plus. You're usually a playoff team, and you're deep in the minuses. You're usually not very, very good. And that's just the way it is.
Miami's coming out flat with a 0.0 turnover margin at this point. And Tennessee is last in the league, as Brian Callahan said. He's giving them credit for 2 more turnovers than they've actually had.
It's kind of crazy, though, because Callahan is right. If you're hovering around that -7 turnover margin mark, you probably haven't won many games, if any. But of the teams, the 4 teams with the worst turnover margin in the NFL, so -4 or worse, the Titans are the only team with the losing record, which I think is interesting. It's the Chiefs are -4. Obviously a winning record. The Raiders are -4. They're 2-2. The Eagles are -6 and they're 2-2.
The Raiders, I would have to watch their games more closely to come away with a feeling on what's happening there. Because I just haven't. It's like the Cardinals. I just haven't seen them play very much football at this point in the season. So I don't want to speak from an uninformed perspective. But yeah, if you have a quarterback that's got 7 turnovers on the year, because who's in that league leading interception category through 3 games versus 4 for the other guys? It's Richardson with 6, even though he got knocked out of that game. It's Mahomes and Levis tied for 5, and of course nobody's worried about Pat, right? Yeah. Nobody's worried about the Chiefs and how they're going to operate moving forward. So the differentiation there is quarterback play, and the quarterback has been the root of the turnover evil. Now, again, I come away from Green Bay not blaming him for 2 of the 3 turnovers, and it doesn't matter because the turnovers are the thing that's killing them the most. But the biggest the biggest key to this game is protecting the football. Don't make Calvin Ridley and Tajay Spears come over to you on the sideline afterward and say, hey, man, just take care of the football. We'll handle everything else. Just play cleanly, just play soundly, which in turn probably puts more pressure on the red-faced, screaming, tightly wound quarterback. He's like, oh, my God, what happens if I turn the ball over? Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Oh, my God, death pick.
Well, the Dolphins have not done a very good job of getting to the quarterback so far. They are bottom 5 in the league in pressures this year with 17. Now, Titans are second worst with 15. Yeah. So neither of these teams have done a good job of getting to the quarterback. And we mentioned it in the last segment. One Titans advantage that fans have been bemoaning as a disadvantage in recent years, Dolphins center Aaron Brewer, right? Who, however fundamentally sound or tougher than a $2 steak, all the good stuff you could say about Aaron Brewer, Titans fans got tired of seeing him match up with a Dexter Lawrence, a Vita Vea, and it just being a complete and utter mismatch, no matter how good fundamentally Brewer was in that game due to his size. Well, now it's flip-flopped, and Aaron Brewer will be matched up with T'Vondre Sweat, with maybe Jeffrey Simmons if he plays. So what's the discourse going to be if that's not an advantage for the Titans? It's rinse and repeat every week. The interior of the D-line has to be one of the biggest advantages for the Titans going into every game. Well, now it's going up against the center, the guy that fans have been trying to run out of here for the last 2-3 years, however long he's been starting since Ben Jones stepped away.
Listen to me. If we don't come out of this game talking about Aaron Brewer being stuck in T'Vondre Sweat's belly button for 60 minutes of football, then it's all for naught. If they go 0-4, the season's over anyway. So we'll be having a much different conversation regardless of how that goes. But if that is not a clear and obvious matchup advantage for this particular team, given the investment in T'Vondre Sweat as a second-round pick, and I know that Jeff Simmons is doubtful at this point, so I'm not expecting to see him out there, having not practiced all week and dealing with an elbow injury. You have stomached already the Todd Downing revenge game. You stomached already the Malik Willis revenge game. So help me God, if we are talking about an Aaron Brewer being on the right side of a revenge game, and that's not a clear and obvious, distinct matchup advantage for this football team, I'm going to scream. I'm going to spend 3 hours of radio screaming tomorrow.
We got
615-737-1045 is the number. We'll take more of your phone calls. We'll relive the Miami upset from last year. We'll talk about some things that were key to the team turning that around in an improbable spot. And even though the offense is different and the defense is different and the personnel is largely different, what themes can this team gravitate towards that can help them win a game? I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Two Rivers Ford is the South's most trusted Ford dealer. I don't just say that because I'm a customer. I say that because they've been in business for over 4 decades, helping Middle Tennesseans find the perfect vehicle for their family's budget and for their needs. Their customer service is top-notch. They literally win awards for it, and the quality American-made Ford vehicles, the product, of course, it cannot be matched. Two Rivers Ford is one of the best teams here in Middle Tennessee. They will never let you down, unlike your favorite sports teams. They are always there to serve you, and they always make the car buying process fast, easy, and fun. No matter how you like to shop, they also adapt to your needs, whether you want to go out to the dealership and do it the old-fashioned way, whether you want to just FaceTime one of their non-commissioned sales team and get a tour of what they have on stock right now. You could even custom order your next Ford, build it online, and have it delivered to your door the way that I did with my Ford Explorer at Two Rivers Ford. That's why they are one of the best teams, the best team in Middle Tennessee, and why they are the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Titans and Dolphins on tap, a rematch of last year's Monday Night Football game where Will Levis got one of his 3 wins, career wins, as a quarterback to date. Since then, obviously, it's been tough sledding. He's been trying to do more than just his debut against the Falcons, an improbable come-from-behind victory against the Dolphins in a game over the woeful Panthers, who were last year's worst team in football. Those are the only 3 teams that Will Levis has beaten. The Falcons game is the game that that made it okay to move on from Tannehill at that point. It was the green light for the coaching staff. The fan base obviously bought in a season that felt like it had nowhere to go. You got a little bit of hope. The Dolphins game is an interesting one in this too because of the way that it happened, right? They were left for dead both by point spread and as that game wore on, but then as they slowly started to chip back in the second and third quarters, culminating in a fourth quarter where down 2 scores with 3 minutes left, they're able to score 2 touchdowns and take a 28-27 win home. Now, maybe you're upset with them for winning because it hurt their draft position. If you're one of those people, we have no time for you. If you are somebody who enjoyed that, I think that there was a lot of goodwill that Will Levis bought, right? Because that's him, Incredible Hulk, red face, screaming, flexing on the sideline. That's him leveling Jalen Ramsey en route to, what was that? That was a part of the 14 play. It was, almost 70 yards. 86 yards, more than 70 yards, 86-yard drive in 7 minutes and 13 seconds. That's the Chubb sack that he almost gets. Levis gets away from him. There's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Chubb that extends that drive even more, that bumps their win probability up, and that is the start of the turnaround there, where not just the fan base bought into him, right? But it felt like the sideline. You don't want him lowering his shoulder on Jalen Ramsey all the time, but it did give the sideline some juice. It got everybody back into it, and ultimately they score the touchdown that draws it 7-7 in the second quarter that makes it feel like you've got a chance. And Chubb is talking after the game about he's got to let his problems be bigger than the team's or he let his individual problems be bigger than the team's problems. He looks like not the best sport in that moment. Then halftime comes. The Titans take that 10-7 lead in after the field goal gives the Titans their first lead of the game. That's a 24-yard completion with 23 seconds left in the first half to D-Hop, who, of course, is as healthy as he's ever been. And again, you start to feel like, all right, maybe they've got something going here. Miami ends up getting up 20-13 after the Titans muff a punt. That's Vrabel screaming at Eric Garror on the sideline. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Either way, it was an unforced error. And then the Titans defense turns around and forces Miami to punt with 6:07 left in the fourth quarter. It's a bit of a mess as that continues to go on, because not only do the Titans muff that punt, but they botch a pitch as well between Levis and Henry on a toss play that Chubb recovers, and Mostert ends up scoring a touchdown. So then you're 27-13 in the fourth quarter, under 5 minutes to play, and that's where the turnaround starts. It's a 4.5-minute drive, 75 yards, 9 plays, NWI involved there. He has a 23-yard reception that helps get them to the Miami 3, first and goal with the Miami 3, and then ultimately they end up hitting Hopkins for the touchdowns. A no-look pass, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, from Levis to Hop. And then they end up completing the comeback as that game wears on with 1:49 left to go. They have the ball at their own 36-yard line, 2:14 left to go. Levis to Hop, Levis to Chig. All of a sudden, they are in position to make the play. And Harold Land, after the Dolphins get it back, after the touchdown is scored, you have Henry from the 3. Titans take the lead. 28 seconds left in that game, and Harold Landry effectively ends that game with a sack on Tua. Now, all these parts and pieces are different from that game that we saw take place and probably on Monday Night Football a year ago. How can they recreate their magic, or can they just beat a team that they might actually be better than? I don't know how many teams that the Titans are better. Oh, I know one team that the Titans are better at. The Jags are godforsaken so far this season. The Jags are the worst team in football, not just because they're 0-4, but because both sides of the ball are in shambles. That's the only team I discernibly know to be worse than the Tennessee Titans this year. But the Dolphins have a good case. Is this an opportunity for Tennessee for the first time this year, outside of Chicago, where they blew it, to look like the better team because they are, in fact, the better team?
Oh, it was story time with Buck Reising. Just reliving that game, drive by drive, quarter by quarter. Wow, great job by you. I think the Titans, we talk about must-win games. We throw that around a lot. This is a must-win game. One team in the history of the NFL has started the season 0-4 and made the playoffs. That team is the 1992 Chargers. The last time the Titans started 0-4 was that season where they started 0-6. And Coach Mack talked about it with us on Friday. 0-6 with a 59-0 loss against the Patriots in the snow. I mean, that was rock bottom. The difference was the Titans had something in their back pocket, and that was Vince Young. Kerry Collins started that season. Titans started 0-6. Titans put in Vince Young, and he rallied them, and they won 6 straight games. And they were suddenly 500 and in the playoff hunt. They ended up going 8-8 that season. It was the CJ2K year, but they turned it around because they had something to give a spark. Levis was that thing last year, right? He lifted this team, not to that degree, but he lifted this team. They don't have that this year. Like, this is what it is. Maybe Mason Rudolph can come in and just play competent football like we're seeing around the league with these veteran backups coming in to stabilize things, but they don't have that ace in the hole, right, to just put in and totally change the direction. They have got to give fans a reason to come back to Nissan Stadium in Week 6 against the Colts. Give fans a reason, right? Like 0-4 going into the bye week, and then you just give the fan base time to sit with it, sit with the 0-4 start and the turnovers and giving up games. I mean, what reason do people have to come to that Colts game? Like, why? Other than, because you're a season ticket holder.
I said this after the Packers game. You've given everybody else a reason to do something else on their Sundays.
Right. Unless you're a season ticket holder and you want to support your team, and that's awesome. But apart from that, it's just give people a reason to come back. This feels like as important a Week 4 game as I can remember for this franchise.
Well, and the other part of that is they do have a bit of an ace in the hole here, but he's already started to show himself, right? It's not VY. It's not a quarterback change. But Hopkins is coming off his most productive game of the season. Now, it ends up coming in a blowout loss to the Green Bay Packers, but it's not because of anything DeAndre Hopkins did. About 6 passes. He had the grown-ass man touchdown against the Packers where he caught the ball on the 3 and somehow ended up in the end zone. It's still pretty crazy to me how Hop scored that touchdown. But he's also somebody that, Levis is trying to get involved more often. And whether that's a part of the reason why the pick 6 was thrown, because Jair Alexander, that's not a player that you want to take a chance against on a regular basis, especially if you have even a fraction of a second to look over there and see that Jair Alexander is staring directly at Levis before the pick 6. He's not looking at Hop. He's not looking at anybody else. He knows that hitch route is coming in his direction. He knows that all he has to do is step to the inside of Hop, get in front of the ball, and he's got a house call, his first of his career. So to me, Hopkins showing signs of life because he's the best playmaker on the team still. That, to me, makes me think, okay, they've still got more here to give. But the other part of this is something that you touched on earlier in the first hour, and I want to circle back around to before we get into the phone calls. 615-737-1045, is that enough with Treylon Burks. Enough. It's enough at this point. I don't know how many times I can say it. I'm not doing it because I'm irritated with Slay that he keeps with this facade of Treylon Burks and the jersey and he's backing his guy and all this other nonsense when all this dude does is fall short of expectations. I don't even have expectations anymore for Treylon Burks, and he continues to underwhelm. Get him off the field, increase Hop snap count, increase NWI snap count, and give you the most reliable set of skill players that this team has. Because if you can't I don't know what the deal with Calvin Ridley is going to be as we progress through the season. I don't know if this is early season, hey, kind of feeling each other out. All right, you're going to have some drops. You're going to have some miscommunications, whatever. Like, I'll live with that because I know that Calvin Ridley can make plays. I know that he is discernibly a playmaker on this football team. That's all well and good. But in the absence of consistent playmaking ability, give me the two most consistent guys on the roster and get the guy who can't catch a 1st and 10 slant pattern the hell off the field. I'm sick of it.
So I don't know if you saw Slay's tweet after Burks dropped that ball on Sunday against the Packers. Slay tweeted
the 1st and 10 that I'm talking about, the most routine pass.
Very routine. Yeah. Yes. Slay tweeted after that. He said, I'm going to be real, man. I'm loyal to the end, and it will never waver if I'm riding with you. Burks got to catch that. How can I go to court and fight for you if that's the evidence you're giving me? I'm going to have to be Cochran to fight this, he said.
Going to have to be Cochran to fight this.
He's going to have to be Johnny Cochran to keep fighting these Traylon Burks. And I respect Slay, and he is loyal to the end, but even Slay is talking about, I'm going to have to be Johnny Cochran to defend Traylon Burks in court at this point with what he's giving or not giving for this football team.
That's what I'm saying, though, Lucas. Like, even Cochran knew when to settle. Like, just settle, okay? Enough. You know a losing argument when you see one. He trots out there every week, and he's still out snapping Hopkins. Now, part of that is the health thing.
Yeah.
We understand this. Part of that is
we don't need to be talking about him out snapping Hopkins. We need to be talking about him out snapping Nick Westbrook-Akine. Like, Hopkins is going to get all the snaps that he can get, that he is physically capable of getting. His coaching staff is not saying, no, we'd rather have a healthy Traylon Burks out there than a healthy DeAndre Hopkins. We need to be talking about the snap count versus NWI, not D-Hop and however limited he is due to coming back from the injury.
And Brian Callahan was asked a question about that because NWI doesn't have a target. I know he got more involved in the Packers game, but Nick Westbrook, I can't believe I'm saying this in the year of our Lord 2024, but NWI not having a target through 3 weeks of football is criminal. Prison, jail. He's the most consistent wide receiver this godforsaken franchise has had since they traded A.J. Brown. It's infuriating to me that it's taken 3 weeks for the coaching staff to understand. I still don't know that they understand that. I don't trust them to understand that because I continue to see Traylon Burks trotting out there in not even critical situations, just him out there in general. I understand he's a first-round pick. This is why you thought that Caleb Farley, by the way, Caleb Farley's still on a practice squad or an active roster. I can't wait till you get to work Kentucky here for an entire week.
That's unfortunate for me.
Yeah, some things don't always hold true. Sometimes you have to understand that a player's body has just completely failed him and that the NFL understands that as well. But Traylon Burks probably going to get an opportunity whenever it is that this team ends up parting ways with him because it feels like him and Dave, you want to talk about pre-fired? You mentioned Mike McCarthy as the most pre-fired coach in 2024. I don't know if there's two more pre-fired players on this football team than than Traylon Burks and Nicholas Petit-Frere, the two last vestiges of John Robinson's tenure here. I cannot believe that they are still giving the one in Burks opportunities. In NPF, I understand you have no other choice. But my thing with Burks is you have options. He is best as depth. The end arounds with him don't even work. He's got 2 carries for a yard. Stop it already and make the decisions that are going to put your quarterback in the best possible position to succeed.
Should we take some calls?
Please.
Karen wants to talk about Amani Hooker. Hey, Karen.
Hey there, Buck. I love you. I agree with you about NWI. Lucas, it was good to see you the other night at NSC Pup Cup.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I brought Amani Hooker. I mean, seriously, he is questionable with a face. He has a scratch on his face with a helmet.
Oh, no.
Seriously?
Karen,
let her cook.
Landed on it and play. How soft is that?
Okay, now go, Buck.
Well, Karen, I appreciate your call. Thank you for doing so. I hope you had a good time at Pup Cup. It's a giant gash across his face. Like if you have to wear a helmet during it would be like, have you ever had your wisdom teeth out? I don't know if you ever, Lucas, I know we've talked about this before, but like I remember having to play high school football the week after a training camp, 2-a-days when 2-a-days were still a thing for high school football players. Having to put my football helmet on after I got my wisdom teeth out because my coach thought I was being soft and I wouldn't put my mouthpiece in. That's kind of akin to what you're asking Amani Hooker to. I'm not saying that he's quite Two-Face like the Batman villain or whatever, but he's got a chunk of his face missing. I don't necessarily blame them if they don't want to risk that to, potential infection or whatever. But I understand why optically seeing a player with face on the injury report and seeing, he's got a scratch is raising some questions among the fans.
I don't think I've ever seen that face on an injury report.
I never.
Yeah.
I've seen all kinds of different things, literally record-setting injury reports, okay, in my time covering this team, never seen a face.
Well, I get you can't say head because that implies concussion, right? So I guess it is accurate. Randy is a tree trimmer up next. What's up, Randy?
Well, first and foremost, if the Burks glove don't fit, Callahan must quit.
Yes.
But so my question is something that we talked about in the beginning of the offseason with Callahan wanting Levis to be more of a boring quarterback, more of a field commander type quarterback where he's just taking the dinks and dunks. But I don't know if it's just me or not, but it feels like it's made him gun shy. It just feels like that he's – and the O-line doesn't help, obviously, but it just seems like he's not getting those throws down the field like he was last year. And it just seems like that's kind of pulled him back away and more kind of brought him back away from being able to get the ball down the field. But I don't know if that's just me or not.
Yeah, I don't necessarily – I don't think that's the crux of the issue, right? Because, I see him check it down. Fine, like that. When they're moving the ball efficiently, like he's getting the ball to the running backs, I see him take underneath opportunities. I see him working the short to intermediate stuff. Whether or not Treylon Burks catches the short to intermediate stuff is also part of the equation here. But I think if you're talking gun shy, I don't even think he's gun shy. Like I don't think he's been deterred by it. Well, the pick six might make him gun shy to throw that hitch route again. And Cosell brought up the idea that he feels Levis predetermines too many of his throws, which is easy for the defense to read. And also the snap count thing that we talked about in Green Bay, where he's letting it go all the way down to double zeros before he takes the snap. There's a couple of different things that are impacting him here that I think he can clean up. Overall, I think there's a lack of comfort in the system, and I think he's working his way through that. So plus he's got a bad offensive line unit as a whole right now. We'll see if they can't get better or not, but that's what I would attribute any gun shyness to.
Speaking of, we were talking about Caleb Farley, Titans former first rounders that are or are not getting more and more opportunities. Rashaan Evans, reportedly from Adam Schefter, is signing with the Falcons practice squad. So going back to Atlanta, getting yet another opportunity. Rashaan Evans. Jerry is a graphic designer up next. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. What you got?
I bashed Treylon Burke last week on your station, and all your guys agree with me, so I'm done bashing him. But I want to say something about Levis. Is it me or people are bashing the coach of the Eagles, Sirianni? But I mean, first you had Vrabel, now you have Callahan. Why don't they sit this guy down, Levis, and say, look, you need to be more mobile like you were last year. Roll out, drop back, and roll out. Look at Josh Allen. Look what he did last night. He was making throws on the sideline, running out of bounds with two guys chasing him and connecting. Levis is athletic. He can run. I remember when he first started with us, he was running all over. Now he just stands there like a deer in headlights. He got 8 sacks in that game. That's crazy. So right there, you got a problem. Maybe we could take him to UT Knoxville and let Professor Manning teach him how to fall back and roll out. And one more thing. Last night in that Ravens game, did you guys catch that play where Lamar Jackson ran to the sideline and got tackled, and when they showed the replay on the bottom, the guy had his whole hand inside his mask, and they didn't call that? Did you guys catch that?
No, I didn't see the play in the Ravens game. Here's the thing about Levis, though. He's not been a willing runner, and if he's scrambling, it's not like they're not running design stuff with him. The thing with Levis, and I know we got to go to break here, so I'll keep it short, is you got to set him up to run. So that is on the play caller. Like, he's not just going to roll out for the sake of rolling out, right? That was Jerry? He's not just going to roll out because he's going to roll out in the middle of the play. If the play is called, designed for him to roll out and take advantage of that, you've got to set him up. He's like Tannehill that way. Honest to God, he's a souped-up Tannehill when I watch him. So if you want him to get on the move, you've got to put him on the move, and that is on the coaching staff. That's not on the player. Last call for phone calls if you got them, 615-737-1045. One more segment from Miami coming up next. Hey, it's Buck Rising. Have you ever wondered about the quality of your drinking water? With a Brita Pro filtration system from Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, you'll enjoy fresh, pure tasting water straight from your tap. No more worrying about what's in it. It's clean, great tasting hydration for your whole family all day, every day. And it's not just about what you drink. Hard water can cause unsightly stains on your faucets and fixtures and damage your appliances. But with a Brita Pro water softener, you can eliminate that annoying mineral buildup, extend the life of your water heater and dishwasher, and keep everything looking and working great. With the holiday season fast approaching, now's the perfect time to ensure your plumbing system is in top shape. Protect your home from potential costly repairs before guests arrive. Benjamin Franklin Plumbing has you covered. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com to learn more and get a quote today. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045 is the number. So up next, I am going to head to Hard Rock Stadium. We're going to see what happens between the Titans and the Dolphins. Coverage here on 104.5 The Zone will continue, of course, through the afternoon. You got 3HL with the Lee Company countdown to kickoff and Titans Talkback. Lucas, you're on Titans Talkback tonight, yeah?
I'm on tonight with Zach Lyons and Blaine Bishop. We'll be on, Blaine Bishop. I was reading Blaine's name. Zach and Blaine are coming up next, but Zach Lyons and Kevin Dyson, former teammate of Blaine Bishop's, will be on after Titans Radio Network postgame and on until midnight, reacting to whatever happens tonight.
Well, certainly it will be interesting one way or the other. You're either talking about the first win of the season or the season being over. It's no middle ground. No in between.
It does feel like that, right? I mean, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's do or die.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is do or die tonight on, it's not South Beach, it's Miami Gardens, but still, it is going to be huge implications for this particular team. The Dolphins, if they fall to 1-3 or if they scrounge their way to 2-2, I don't know if that's doing much for them as far as their hopes and dreams of Super Bowl contention. People are down tremendous about the Dolphins around here locally, just talking to some people yesterday. They are not optimistic. They think they are going to lose to the Titans, which is about the same. Both fan bases seem to be approaching this with pessimistic mentalities. We will see who comes up the cleaner of the two pessimists at this point between the Titans and the Dolphins tonight. Of course, you can hear coverage on 104.5 The Zone. We ready for some polls?
The polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What is the Titans' biggest advantage over the Dolphins? Karen, who called in earlier, says Dolphins injuries. Mike says the Titans are number 2 in the NFL at run stuff rate. Dolphins are number 1 in the NFL in run stuff rate. He said missing Big Jeff could change that quite a bit. Jeff is doubtful tonight, so not sure what his status will be.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Jeffrey. Obviously, less likely than not that he plays. It still should be advantage Titans in the middle of that defense if Aaron Brewer is playing center, for all the reasons that you were at a disadvantage because Aaron Brewer was playing center. Snead is the one to keep an eye out for with the hamstring listed as questionable. Amani Hooker also questionable with the face injury that Karen considers him soft for.
They got to have Snead tonight, right? With Awuzie already. I mean, they got to have him tonight.
If they don't have Snead tonight, they don't got a chance. Like, I don't care who's playing quarterback. Tyreek Hill is just going to he's going to direct snap it and beat them if Snead doesn't play tonight.
Well, that would defeat the purpose of trying to take advantage of a team without its top 2 corners, but I see what you're saying. What is the Dolphins' biggest advantage over the Titans? Tommy says speed.
Yeah, they're definitely not. No, I mean, no team in the NFL is as fast as the Dolphins' skill players. At this point, the Dolphins' biggest advantage over the Titans?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the speed.
Just pure team speed. It's a track meet out there.
That and the defensive front against the Titans' offensive line. Titans are at a disadvantage there for sure.
Yeah. Be honest. Did you find yourself cheering for Derrick Henry on Sunday night? 76% say yes. Yes, they did. I did. I mean, I can't even lie. A lot of the comments, too, Will Levis's biceps on Twitter says what I think a lot of Titans fans think. Don't make me face the truth, right? Like, I think a lot of Titans fans probably really had that deep down when Henry, because there is not a more breathtaking play. There are not many more breathtaking plays than when he pops that first wave through the line of scrimmage. Like, give me that over whatever deep ball or whatever play you can generate in the passing game. Give me the 250-pound running back and just that gasp when he breaks through the line of scrimmage and then slowly pulls away from an entire defensive backfield. Like, if Titans fans didn't watch that last night and get like some good feelings out of it, then you're lying to yourself. Maybe some wistfully good feelings, but still, it was a sight for sore eyes, it felt like.
Yeah, I really only saw one person in the replies saying that the majority of the respondents made him sick because I guess rooting for the Ravens is a cardinal sin, no pun intended, with the Titans fan base. But I've never rooted for Derrick Henry before because he's always been on the team that I've covered. So last night I got to be a fan. I got to watch Derrick Henry the way that you guys watch him. And I also stood up in my hotel room and was yelling "go" at my TV screen because you know what? He did have some opportunities to pull away from people in the last 2 seasons that he was here, and he wasn't doing it. Like that's not an inconsequential thing. That he was pulling away from Bills defensive backs, that was Derrick Henry back in his bag.
Yeah, the Henry lost to step crowd did not have a good night last night. Alabama wide receiver Ryan Williams is the most impressive freshman you have seen since. Mike Herndon says Jeremiah Smith, who is currently a freshman wide receiver at Ohio State and also is incredible. I can't wait.
Did you see that touchdown reception he had against
Unbelievable. He's insane. He's insane. And the only reason we're not talking more about him is because of what Ryan Williams did against Georgia on Saturday. But those two guys at the top of I don't even feel like doing that math in my head, the draft 3 years from now when after their junior years, man, that's going to be a fun wide receiver class to talk about, headlined by those two guys. Karen is back in the replies. She says Herschel Walker. That is definitely a good submission. Gator Mike says Percy Harvin. Kenneth says Jameis Winston, but he was a redshirt freshman. I'm talking true freshman.
Yeah, it's probably Bowers for me. Just because
Bowers is a great example.
Oh my God, that is a professional athlete already. And then you had to tell me that was our first year on the air that he was a true freshman.
Yeah, dude is 18 and the best weapon on the national championship winning Georgia Bulldogs. Bowers is the first name I thought of in this discussion. I also went back to Eric Berry, watching Eric Berry as a freshman in 2007 and thinking, okay, yeah, that guy's got it. And obviously he went on to have a great career. But Ryan Williams doing something that's more impressive than what any of those other freshmen did, because the dude should be making a homecoming proposal right now. Like, the guy literally should still be at Saraland High School in Alabama. Just incredible stuff. Those are the polls.
Instead, he's changing his profile picture to Mike Vick with a puppy because of, beating the dogs. I shouldn't laugh at that. That's in terribly poor taste. Either way, that's going to do it for us this afternoon. Enjoy the football tonight. I'll be on the scene to cover it for you. I'll be back in Nashville to react to it tomorrow. Cameron Wolf of the NFL Network, who is also based here in Miami, will have reaction with us as well. So enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll see how it goes.